Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co host, Brian McNichol, and this is episode number 325.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and hope you're staying cool wherever you are because it ain't easy right now.
Yeah, so on the list is the heat dome. They said it was 28 states. That was a few days ago. I don't know if they extended that or reduced that. I don't know if that number is still accurate or not. I haven't checked. But it's hot. It is
Yeah,
really.
it's really hot.
When was the last time it was this hot? I mean, it hasn't been a while. It's been a
Yeah,
while, right?
it's been 3 or 4 years at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're supposed to get over 100 degrees here today, which we don't. That doesn't happen here much.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
We have
it's
lots of 90s, right? I mean, I
right.
want people down south and so forth. Is like this is not a place for a cool summer. Right. This is in fact, that was one of the reasons they did, they were deciding where to put the capital. There was an argument against Washington because it was so nasty in the summer. And so Congress just said, well, we won't do anything in the summer. We'll just go home and tend our farms and all that. Of course, now that doesn't work that way. So they're here in the summer, but they still take, the August recess. There's still a legacy of that.
Yeah. I mean, and when Trump talked about draining the swamp. I mean, DC is literally a swamp.
It really is. Yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah,
mean,
it's close. It's below. Parts of it are below sea level. None of it is far above sea level.
yeah.
Right. It's where it goes into it's where the Potomac goes from being a river fed by mountain streams and snow runoff in the mountains to a tidal river. Right. So I mean, the river grows about 8 times in size in about a 10-mile stretch from Great Falls down to below the Legion Bridge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. I mean, so since I've given my since I've given whatever I know, or at least a lot of my thinking goes into you know technology, I rely on technology a lot, and
Right.
so that's how I tell most of the time. The weather is just built around my phone or my tablet or computer or whatever, and but when I was out yesterday and I was at a church thing, and I'm inside a very warm building where the air conditioning does not work very well. So it was like I was extremely uncomfortable, and I'm looking at my watch, and it's like it says 98, and I'm like, oh, this is why I'm so just horrible.
Yeah.
It's just miserable. And you go outside, it's dangerous to be outside for a lot of people. You have to watch out for heat stroke and all these other issues. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we may have a good long streak of 90 plus days for them to record, I guess, on this.
Yeah.
Combined with our humidity, it makes for some very unpleasant days.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, because that's humid here. That's the other thing. Like Louisiana people, please understand. I didn't get away from that part of this. You can
Yeah.
run, but you can't hide. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you could hide if you go out west, but
Yeah, if you went to Arizona, it's hot, but
it's hot. And like I was in Arizona, like I would go golfing at noon and I would have the course completely to myself. I would be the only person on the entire 18 holes, right? Because they don't play that time of day there. But to me, that wasn't that hot, right? It was like go get it done before dead of afternoon, be done by 2 or 3 because there's no one out there. You're just playing it as fast as you can play it, and then go get in the pool for the afternoon.
Yeah. Man, you're a brave guy to be out on the links at noon in Arizona. It's brutal. I mean, it's Arizona. I mean, the heat's going on from what it's pretty warm even in May, going all the way through even September-ish, maybe. It just depends.
October, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it does. There's only a few months where it's relatively cool,
Yeah.
by my standards at least.
And it's quite nice during those months. It's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those are the months to visit. I mean, really, Otherwise you're kind of feel stuck indoors, or you're out at 6 a.m. doing things or
Yeah.
trying to do things, because when it's 80 degrees at 6 a.m., that's a good thing,
Yeah. I remember
versus
as we were talking about the last time I was down there, it was so bad. In fact, the guy said, "I've already closed up everything, so I'm not going to charge you." I'm like, "Can I even take? But I need to take a cart, right? Because my knee's bad. I usually have to go in a cart." And he goes, "Just take the cart and park it there." He goes, "Don't tell anybody." I'm like, "Okay." So hopefully, no one at that golf course is watching.
That's pretty funny. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll be watching the weather here, and I don't even. I don't know. I mean, I just picked up a package off our front porch, and I was like, a small little thing. It's like, it's hot.
Yeah,
My watch says it's 90 here where I am.
yeah.
So there'll be a lot of air conditioning being used. A quick question though, before we move on to the news: did you have any power outage the other day or not?
Land of buried
Okay.
cables, baby. We don't have power
Yeah,
outages.
I mean, so that's what the thing is that normally my neighborhood is pretty safe. I mean, we have buried cables because it's a 25-year-old neighborhood, and
Yeah,
everything like that. But I wake up early in the morning, and I'm like, whoa, why? It's pitch black, and everything like that, and only battery operated stuff is going, and I look outside, all the street lights are off, and I'm like, oh, what's going? My wife she has this odd sleep schedule, and she goes, oh, it's been out since about 2 a.m. So that I was up about 3:30, and I'm thinking like, hey, I have no, there was no storm. I mean, it's been hot. So I was wondering though, where I live, whether or not there was just a high demand for electricity or something for air conditioning, and maybe that tripped something.
yeah,
When I left for the gym, I'm like, okay, by that time it had gone back on, but I saw three work trucks in the space of half a mile, fiddling around. So
yeah.
obviously, I think it was pretty localized, but I wasn't sure. Everything else seemed to be fine, but once the lights are back on, you really don't know what was affected unless you see a lot of
Yeah. We had one
local.
a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago that was like that. It was like there was no apparent reason for it. It wasn't long either. It was 45 minutes maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, power outages in my neighborhood are extremely rare, so it's like even now my wife's like, oh, I better make sure my phone is fully charged. She's the person who will let her phone go down to 10% pretty often, uh, and that's not going to
Yeah.
last you long in a power outage.
Right.
An
Yeah.
extended
I'm,
power.
my family makes fun of me. I freak out if it gets below 80,
Yeah,
I don't mess around about the
yeah.
phone.
All right. Well, there's plenty of news. Since we've been on the air before last week, Trump went ahead and ordered strikes on Iran,
Right.
in what was, I think, a bold move, in a lot of ways, a brilliant move, because, and it was very stealthily done. I mean, moving planes in one direction, moving planes in another direction without transponders. Uh, you know, just really had people fooled. There's a lot of blowback from the Democrats. A lot of Democrats about, oh, but we need you should have notified us, and there's a lot of argument about exactly what Trump should have done in this case. But the strikes seem to be pretty effective, and at least have made Iran realize is that the U.S. is probably not going to sit idly by here in this dispute.
Right. So a lot of things on there. One, yes, he did it. They didn't tell the Democrats because, frankly, the Democrats can't be trusted to keep a secret at this point. They ended up telling Schumer, and they tried to tell Jeffries beforehand, the House Minority Leader. So, they did make some attempts when it was too late for them to blow it up, right? For them to form their sources or whatever. So they go over there and they do this, and the Iranians' posture has completely changed since that, right? And then now they claim, well, nothing really happened. Those strikes didn't do anything to the nuclear program. Story out on CNN from Natasha Bertrand, who's, notorious for getting played by the intel community to, drop their little news into the public, anonymously, right? Anonymously stores story saying we didn't do any damage, right? Then IAEA, the atomic energy people who, monitor that kind of stuff, they're like, no, it was very severely damaged. That's all wrong, but you're not, the media is not ever going to say anything about, that, and the thing that the point I try to make about these things, if there's no source on the story, right? If they're saying sources saw intel, like, no, they didn't. That's, if a source saw intel, it'd tell you who the source was. So you'd know that, this is someone in position to see intel of that nature, right? So they don't, and so and if you look at what the White House is saying about this, they're like, there's some intel document. They've assessed something. But the White House said they didn't read that right. That's not what's in the report, right? And so they're not going to go back and tell you what is in the report because it's a classified document and so forth. And so you're just left with, anonymous sources say one thing and the few named sources on the subject say the other, and the administration can't really, pound all its evidence on the table because it's classified, right? They don't want the Iranians to necessarily know what they know. So now you're going to have to endure a day or two of people. Trump wasted our time and our money bombing these people when he did not. It does not look like those things are ever going to be operable again. They may be able to resurrect their nuclear program, but it won't be at Fodro or Natanz. They will have to find somewhere else.
Yeah, and it's this whole the notification thing is always, to me, I don't know, it's always kind of tricky because it's like, if you need to do that, because it's in the Constitution or whatever, it's a law that you got to do it. I understand that. I mean, the top, people need to know in a sense, but there's so many potential problems because, the more people who know, the more chances that it will leak out. And the next thing you know, your plans blow up, in your face or whatever. These operation like this had to be conducted. I mean, what did he call it? Did he call it Midnight Hammer or something like that?
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to do this with some confidence that you're not going to be compromised.
Right.
It's very, carefully orchestrated. You have some liberals that have given Trump, praise for doing this.
That's right.
Because, because it's something I think a lot of people thought it needed to be done. Iran has had a blank check here with nuclear weaponry and nuclear armament for a long time. No one's really made them, pay, kind of follow the non-proliferation treaty, any of these kind of things. They just still kind of run wild. And yeah, I mean, it had an immediate effect of bringing Iran to the table, and which is a good thing. Now Trump has just got to, they have to just kind of make sure that both sides can hold together here and find something that they can work with. But the Middle East peace is always somewhat of an elusive type of a thing. The other side tends to be very itchy trigger finger here.
Well, I think that this is the right way to do it if we're going to do it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. The New York Times had a story on it too, which was even more vague and less credibly sourced, if possible.
Sounds like you and Bob may have talked about this.
I have not talked about it with Bob, but I'm not surprised that we're on the same page.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's pretty clear what's going on, right? The intel community they probably were cut out of a lot of this, right? Because I think one of the things that's going on in America is we're basically outsourcing intelligence, especially in the Middle East, to Mossad. Right? They can do it and we really can't do it. And, and if you don't believe they can do it, then, there's a big stack of very important Iranian leaders and their political, military and intelligence unit, laying behind boxes right now as a result of what Mossad is capable of doing, that we are not capable of doing. We're pretty good at signals intelligence, but human intelligence, we're almost down to zero, right? So there, people wonder, why do y'all always help Israel? As well, Israel helps us, right? Israel has some things going on that we can't get elsewhere, and one of them is on the ground intelligence in the most dangerous parts of the world. So yeah, there's going to be some negotiations. There's going to be, but I think that the Trump administration, I think that they think that going forward, we're not going to be dealing with the mullahs, right? When their peace efforts that they've talked about haven't had anything to do with the mullahs, because I believe they believe that they are gone or will be gone soon. There's some intel. There's some people saying that the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has already been killed, but it's not confirmed. But they're thinking along those lines. It's headed in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, what's the outlook for leadership in Iran? I mean, I think we talked about this before last week. I mean, the Shah's son, has made some noise about,
Shah's son is organizing NGOs and other people interested in stability to be a caretaker until they can get elections and get a political system reestablished. So yeah, I think in the short term it would be the Shah's son, but not in the long term. I don't think he is interested in it to the long term, and I think he is interested in a popularly elected government.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that the people of Iran would want him long term anyway. And that's right. It's not really clear to me that would be the case. It's not like it's some hero returning or whatever. But if they could actually have a free country, free of the mullahs, then that would be a step in the right direction for Iran. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a pretty masterful operation, and this, yet again, as I said before, here we've had all kinds of interesting things happening over the last, month or so, the Ukraine drone strike within Russia, Israel's, drone strike as well, where both countries, they smuggled the parts in, they built the drones and then launched them from within, and then hit targets, and just amazing to me what is done. But this one now, you're talking about, a much bigger, kind of charade in the sense of how you're covering your tracks here. I don't know who actually planned this whole thing out, but since there are so many people kind of watching what happens, to actually send planes in different directions, to keep transponders off, until, and do everything until it was absolutely necessary, and just basically trick people into thinking, oh, well, they're just moving assets, things are kind of normal. They're just kind of, shifting some things around and getting prepared or whatever. But then to actually have the strike, that was shocking.
Yeah, and the faux tiff between Netanyahu and Trump, right? He's mad at Netanyahu. He's not going to help him anymore, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, they really played this out. They really tried to make it look like it wasn't happening. They did a good job.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trump is, he zigs and he zags, and there's a lot of kind of smoke and mirrors. A lot of things that he says and he does that he doesn't necessarily really mean. He knows that the media will eat up just about anything he says. They're always paying attention to stuff that he says or that he puts on True Social or whatever. But then he can immediately contradict himself with some action. And there was nothing that suggested he was going to make this kind of a bold strike. He was still supposedly arguing with Bibi and things like that.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to take up to 2 weeks."
Right, the 2-week thing, right? Yeah.
So what did they all say? Well, Trump's going to be 2 weeks, and then the liberal media is like, he said 2 weeks on health care, and he said 2 weeks on this. 2 weeks means he ain't going to do nothing. So 2 days later, the 2 weeks were up.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that was the other thing too. I mean, that 2 weeks thing was good because I think people were like, okay, yeah, so he's going to decide this is going to be just kind of, they'll be firing missiles back at each other or whatever for a couple of weeks, and then Trump is going to decide whether or not he's going to put the U.S. into this in any way, shape, or form, and then bam, and so yeah, I guess if you're the Iranians and you don't know Trump very well, you're kind of relaxing. You're just like, okay, well, we're just going to focus on Israel, and see what we can do there. And he does this, and so I mean, Iran's response is that they hit this base in Qatar, but they kind of sent they kind of telegraphed that we're going to do it.
We're getting ready to bomb the base in Qatar, and you better whatever you better take care of that because we're coming to bomb the base in Qatar.
Yeah.
Right, and then it was like 4 missiles and 3 of them got intercepted and 1 of them missed. It's like,
yeah,
and it's like, okay,
yeah, there's not that many people there either, right? I mean,
right,
yeah,
right, and we moved everybody out. We evacuated the base, took all the equipment. I mean, and they all knew that. Everyone knew that. I mean, I read something last night. A guy says, he goes, it is very barely possible that this has been choreographed since before Trump took office. That these guys have been working on this and how exactly they would do it and what exactly they would make it look like all the way back before he even took office. So I don't, that's just someone speculating, but it was interesting take. And, it did explain a lot of the phenomena. So, and that was one of them. So it is kind of interesting that it all fell and, the timing was so perfect.
Yeah. Well,
I will say this, you see the, I don't know how much time you spent on X, but you see these things, a picture of Kamala, and they're like, we could have had her, and all this stuff. It's like, no, we couldn't. The right thing happened. If you can't see that Trump needs to be president now, then you're not paying attention.
Wasn't there some report that somebody that worked for Kamala said that, there's to the effect that she would not have done this. I mean, she wouldn't have pulled the trigger on this at all. I mean, it's
right.
This is not an action she would have had the mettle or the courage to do.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think even though we still have these things going on, and we had this escalation with Israel now and Iran, that we're still in better shape on a foreign policy basis than we would have been under another Biden-Harris administration, or I guess in this case a Harris, Harris, definitely Harris Walz administration. This kind of thing. The other side, the opposition here, they have to realize that Trump is, he's serious about trying to put an end to these things.
Yeah.
We still have Steve Bannons and the Tucker Carlsons and some other people that are not happy with a lot of these types of things, but
it's irrelevant.
I think their voices are not that. You get on this side. I mean, how many people do they have behind them? I think Tucker. I mean, he's trying to build a media empire. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of his people said, they unsubscribed or they quit because that's not what they wanted. I mean, it's they believe that what Trump did here was the right thing. So, I mean, you can voice an opinion that says, I disagree, but the way that some of these guys have done it, I mean, they've been really loud. They've just
right. And they people think they have some kind of special insight. He said no new wars. He talked about bombing Iran the entire time he was on the campaign trail. That was like a regular feature of his speeches. So, the fact that happened shouldn't surprise anybody. And he never said he wasn't going to do it. Right. And if you followed Trump, if you followed his first term or what he said about politics outside of the time he was president, he's been consistent that this was a threat that had to be neutralized and that he would be for pushing the button to neutralize it as soon as they got a good angle on it. So I don't, the idea that, we voted for peacenik and we got this is nonsense, right? That's not, if you might have heard that, but he didn't say that. So, and I also think that people need to consider, we've been working on this, for 6 years, right? And these people have been a problem for 46 years. They have bombed us, financed people to go against us, killed tens of thousands of Americans in various military actions around the world. And we finally got a plan to do something about it, and somebody to actually do all the basic heavy lifting for us. And we should say no. Why would you say no to this?
Yeah, they've been identified as state-sponsored
leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world, the worst government on earth. And these guys are like, oh, you don't drop a bomb on them. You got to be kidding. It's just it's ridiculous. It's pointed out the ridiculous, wing of the party. There's a certain part of each party that you have to carve off so that it can function. And that's, all the ridiculous people are on the side of this.
Yeah, I don't understand it sometimes with these people that are like that. But it is a free country. You can say these things and have your opinions, and thanks to the internet, it amplifies your voice if you can find the right group of people to listen to you and spread the word and go viral, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things that go on.
I was smart enough to know when to start criticizing Trump. It's like, no, you weren't.
Yeah.
Why do you think that inexorably you would have to criticize Trump? Why do you think I'm looking for the opportunity to criticize Trump? Why are you doing that? I mean, if something comes up, something comes up. But if that's what you're looking for, you can make this case around it or whatever. But it's nonsense. Nonsense.
Yeah. So we'll have to kind of. It's another one of those situations where we'll continue to monitor and watch what happens there. This is definitely probably the real big news because of there's always been consistent tensions in the Middle East in different pockets for decades, but now our actions and I don't even consider this action by us necessarily like an act of war or whatever that
I don't either.
But this is a military strike, and there's nothing to indicate necessarily right now that we're going to do anything else. We might. I don't know what they're doing at the what they're doing at the Pentagon. They probably have a lot of other plans, because they should have a lot of other plans. But we have. I mean, you look at Ukraine and Russia. We give them money and material, but we don't put troops on the ground except for training. So we don't go into combat with Russia on this. So Trump is not interested in in entering any full-fledged battle between country A and country B. He does want to kind of see some peace going on here and getting the map straight and everything like that. So yeah. And that I think what Bob said. I think this is getting to be true, right? I mean,
the other thing is that we've talked about this before too. Is these guys they have a network TV gig, right? Then they go off network TV. They're like, that doesn't matter. I'll start these other things, and but to do those other things, right? To those other enterprises where you're trying to reach the public, you got to get a little crazier, right? Because you've got to get people to go through a lot of trouble, click a lot of stuff to put your thing on their screen, and they got to watch it on their computer. Most people can't watch it on their TV, right? It's not just sit there with the remote flicking channels. It actually takes some work to watch Tucker Carlson's show, and then you have to devote the time and so forth and all that kind of stuff to it. So, I think that like what ends up happening is they see that like the raw numbers are not there for this. The podcast, there's a few people who really zing in the podcasting world, but most of them, it's a pretty tiny group of people you're actually reaching and influencing. So, I guess collectively it's a bigger number, right? But he's not reaching anybody. He had a perch above the entire conservative information infrastructure at one point, and he's kind of a non-player now. So to get back the attention, he seems to get ever wackier. Like the other, bizarre one was calling on getting Ted Cruz on the show and then trying to argue with him, right? Which is not safe on a number of levels. But why are we doing that? Why is if you're trying to get a conservative audience, why are you arguing with Ted Cruz? Right? You bring him on, have his views, have a discussion. But like that was a rock throwing contest, right? That was you can't. That's not no one's going to go to all that trouble to watch you for that.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of a head scratcher in the sense of the way that went, because Ted Cruz is still pretty popular among conservatives and Republicans.
Yeah,
he's
somebody that's kind of managed to be anti-Trump right at first, and then get back into the family, right? Read the room, make the right call.
Yeah, and so this is where Tucker and his ilk are basically, it kind of goes to what you're saying. I mean, in essence, to create news, to get the viewers, to get the paid subscribers, to go viral, you've got to do something. And so you take on someone who is fairly well respected within the movement, and then you try to get him with this dumb gotcha question, and it's like, yeah, okay, wait a minute. It's like, so if Ted Cruz had had something in his hip pocket, for Ted had, there was no reason for Ted Cruz to think that that Tucker was going to ask this kind of obscure question. I mean, it's like, really, how many people know what the population of Iran is? I mean, can we go a man on the street interview and find out? No, people are not paying attention to that figure.
Right. And it's not a football game where we line up and we block and you're 92 million on our 11 million, you just push us back. That's not how this works at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, that whole thing was kind of just silly. I think Tucker loses a lot of respect and a lot of viewers as a result of that. But Tucker is Tucker, and he has the freedom to do what he wants to do, and that's fine. Even with a general decline of cable news, their ratings, Fox seems to be doing okay, but MSNBC and CNN are struggling. That eyeballs are moving in other directions. Whether or not it's to TikTok, some on YouTube, or you can find Tucker. But as you said, one of the problems with these guys is that whether or not it's Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, or who, is that if you want to go out and find them, you actually have to do some work, or you got to subscribe to their channel, and so you get their feed in there. I don't know. I'm old. I'm lazy. I mean, I cut my cord a few years ago, but my pattern is just like, I've got a clicker, or I've got a TiVo or whatever, and I just basically look on a channel guide, and I select the programs I'm either going to watch now or watch later. But it's pretty well laid out. I go to Fox News and say, these are the programs I want. You go to YouTube, you got to look all over the place to find things, and then I guess maybe Tucker's got his own network or whatever, but it's just, there's too much out there to find all these people. I mean,
right. You don't have, without that TV audience, you don't have, your audience is too dispersed,
Yeah.
So it's not that people aren't watching, but you don't have the numbers, you don't have the power you did before.
Basically the only thing I've watched of Tucker since he left Fox was when he did his test of the Cybertruck, because I was interested in what the Cybertruck and things like that. But that's it. That's once. I mean, that was not even, that's not even a real political thing. I mean, he was just taking this interesting, unusual vehicle, and they're giving it a run for its money through all kinds of conditions, and so it was kind of just an inside view of someone who's not Elon, showing you what a Cybertruck is like, up in Maine. I think it was I wasn't even watching for the politics at that point, because I think I've gotten to the point, maybe I'm just getting too old, where I don't really want all the shouting and yelling and screaming. Can you give me some good, honest opinion or news or whatever, and just without the shouting matches? I back in the day, I could watch the McLaughlin Group, but I'm not as keen on stuff like that today. You know, can we have a
What
good
you
reason to
see
discuss it?
today, and it's not just on the news. It's like you watch Congress, right? You watch committee meetings, you watch the floor. I mean, it's just personal and nasty, right?
Yeah,
And it gets you get way off the topic, right? And so we have these big problems that if the wiser heads got together, we could solve them, or perhaps solve them anyway, right? That we did never get addressed because we're insulting each other. It's just an
right,
insult, scream fest culture.
right. Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, and I'm not trying to
I
wimp
contribute
out.
to it. I'm guilty.
Yeah,
I'm part of the
sure.
problem.
No. I mean, I think we all have that. We all play a little bit of part in that. But I think at the same time, I mean, I'm just kind of like, I just kind of grown tired about that. It's like I'm not.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. I'm not really interested in getting into a a Twitter debate with a Keith Olbermann type or something like that.
yeah.
It's just
Joe from Jersey or
right.
Alex,
Yeah,
whatever his name
yeah.
is.
You just go down this rabbit hole, and what's the purpose? You
Yeah,
know, we're just adding to this whole negativeness on these kinds of things. We need to kind of rise above a lot of these things. And I'm not trying to wimp out or anything like that. I still consider myself a diehard conservative, but the way things have been going in our culture, it's just not really been the right way overall. We just see this kind of degradation of things, politicians, all this type of thing you're saying. It's like, yeah, he just like in the halls of Congress, if there was ever decorum, it is largely gone, right?
yeah, that's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
we used to talk like when I was up there, and they I was up there during the time of Bush, W. Bush, and it was bitter, and people said, there was a lot of talk. It's like it's always been bitter, right? People act like the good old days when we all hugged and and buddy buddied and stuff. And, those are long gone. It's like there wasn't no buddy buddy. Those people have been at each other's throats since we've had a 2-party system. They just did. That's just what it is. And now, is it worse now? I just think watching the floor of the House, I think so. I don't know how I'd measure it or quantify it, but I've had to watch it lately. There's been some bills on there that I had interest in, and it's the decorum is horrible. People cursing from the dais and cursing at witnesses. Witnesses, that's the other thing. Witnesses have become far more combative, right? They know they're there, they're part of the show too, and the camera points at them and they have their say. They take their swing. So it's wild. It ain't like we would really like it to be.
well, yeah. Okay. So before we move on, so that's the other thing too, is that you mentioned they are playing to the camera, right? I mean, they understand we're in this 24/7 news cycle, so that now it's like, okay, there's a lot of people who could potentially be watching this, so they're going to be controversial. They're going to be maybe nasty and start a fight or whatever to create a viral moment because they think their supporters will like this. It's like,
yeah.
What are you thinking? I mean, it's like in terms of this, it's like this is not doing any good.
Right. It's not doing any good. But, on the other hand, if you put on good, entertaining fights, people will watch,
Yeah, right. No, I mean, but it's, I don't know. I'm just annoyed and disappointed. Okay. I'm just going to be a crotchety.
But I mean, I'm just saying the public's part of this too, because,
right.
They vote with their feet and this is what they're voting for.
Right. Right. No, I mean, there's these people that we're watching in the halls of Congress are the people that the public Americans voted in. And that's the way our process works. And even if
right.
us sitting in our chairs will be like, why in the heck did Michigan elect that guy or whatever?
Right.
But that's their right They have that
That's
freedom
right.
to do so. All right, couple more things quickly, or we'll see. New York Democratic mayoral race, the primary.
Speaking of people they elected.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's right. Yeah, so this guy was Zoran Mamdani, a Muslim, but a socialist, an outright socialist who's got a long list of things about what he would do if he, selected mayor. Would do. I mean, he beat Cuomo.
One of which is public grocery stores, publicly owned grocery stores.
Yeah, that's gonna. This is all socialist ideas. They really work really well.
Well, my thing on that is, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Right.
right? Because I mean, uh, there's not a, it's hard to find a Safeway in New York City,
Right.
right? It's just like that's a big old store, and you need a big lot, and they don't have big lots. So
It's bodegas.
you have the bodegas, right? So, and you have a butcher shop to get your meat, right? But the bodegas have most of what they have is, or a lot of what they have is fresh, So I mean, your access to fresh, you're in one of the largest port cities in the world. Your access to fresh is better than most people's, not worse. But to the extent there are islands, I mean, I think like the government, they went broke running Mustang Ranch, right? One of the most reliable businesses in the history of business. Right? I mean, there's a certain amount of customers and whatever. So these are not people who know how to turn a profit. And now this guy wants to do this, in a business where you spend $108 million a year to make $110 million a year, like extremely large output for extremely small margins. So, I don't know what he's trying to accomplish, but because, to set up what I think he's trying to do, you're going to have to buy a lot of land that's not cheap where he is. So, I'm not sure what the aim is there or what that's supposed to accomplish. But it's that kind of impracticality. And I guess Curtis Sliwa finally has a chance to be mayor of New York, because I do think when these guys turn around and think about it, you think about 1/3 of all the Jews in the U.S. live in New York, right? So it's about 6 million overall. It's about 2 million in New York. So if you got a guy who's like as anti-Jewish as you can get, can he really win if there's 2 million Jews in the pool? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to be curious to see once we get some, and I guess one thing I understand too is that because it's ranked choice voting, which I really hate, that I guess the official results won't be known for a little while yet. They're still counting or ranking and everything like this. But I mean, Cuomo has conceded.
It's not close.
Yeah, Cuomo's conceded, and what an embarrassment to Cuomo trying to make his political comeback. I mean, right. that for that, but having the socialist in there, his main competition really is not, I mean, Sliwa, because part of the problem, I mean, Sliwa's going to have to attract a lot of Democrats in order to win because of based on registration.
Right.
The question is that Eric Adams, the current mayor, running as an independent, are the people, or the Democrats who voted for the other candidates like Cuomo, will they vote for Adams? Have they made amends with Adams enough on some of the things they disagreed with him on that kind of pushed him into that independent slot to reelect him as mayor? Or does Sliwa slide through? Does Mondani somehow get through? I mean, there's some interesting things here that go on in New York. This is a very powerful political job. I mean, it can't take it lightly. I mean, it would be unbelievable if Curtis Sliwa somehow managed to make it in there. But I don't know. I see it as a potential dogfight between right now between Adams and Mondani. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what way the voters are really going. I mean, if the platform that Mondani is running on, I don't know if the broad base of New York voters can swallow that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's that, and he's got some flaky ideas too. And he wants to defund the police. I don't think that's very popular in New York right now. He basically turn it over to wild protests and drug places where you can shoot drugs and all that. The rest of the country is kind of moving away from that. They're kind of saying we don't want that in our community. So I'd be surprised if New York really says we do. You never know about New York. But I think that Mayor Adams has a live chance. Cuomo, I think he wants now to run as an independent. I don't think he has a live chance. Sliwa, I guess he'll get the Republican or whatever it is they call it.
Yeah, he's unopposed, so he's got the nomination as his. Yeah. That's a done deal for him. So,
and I don't know how good a candidate he is. He doesn't seem to be able to fire up the bases as you would think. So it'll be interesting to see. And I would say it's going to come down to Mondami and Adams.
Yeah, I mean, look, Sliwa, the thing is that he's run before. I mean, he's been around a long time in New York politics. The whole
Yeah.
guardian angels thing and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
I think, my supposition here is just that consider a guy who's kind of just old news. And the Republicans, if you're going to win this race, you're going to have to bring somebody who can not only cross party lines, but bring some fresh ideas and show you what you can do for New York City and everything like this. I mean, we don't want the Democrat turned Republican just to get elected as a mayor and then go back to the Democrat Party as soon as you leave office or whatever, and stuff like that. We don't need any of those kind of people. But it's not impossible, for a Republican to win there, but it takes the right kind of Republican. And conservatives have got to understand that, it's kind of like being in the state of Maryland. You have to kind of hew to the middle and then be able to do things in order to win to win statewide, or in this case, citywide. But it does give you the power to do certain things, to the base of the ideas that you want to. So, it's not an easy type of thing. Oh, missed a comment here.
What is this? About the Travis.
How long was that communique?
Yeah.
He's right, though. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean,
Trump's going to do that too. Someone already asked him about that, and he said, "Yeah, I'm strongly for it." So, and I think it's time for Europe to take over defending Europe. All right, we did it for 80 years. They can do it. They need to step back up. And I think that they now, I think part of the the follow-on effect of what is happening in both Russia and Ukraine and Israel, Iran, is that those countries should see that they have some vulnerability. They have large Iranian, Arab, and Muslim extremist populations in their countries. They need to start thinking about managing that. They're not we are not the same. You have a problem on your flank.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, if you want to complain about U.S. interventionism in your country or whatever, then build up your military and spend more money and with the NATO, and get your help from the NATO alliance. It's like, don't go whine. Don't expect the U.S. to do the bulk of the work there and put it on the bulk of the money, and then complain that they're interfering with your military operation or whatever. That doesn't, you can't have it both ways. So
right.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Look, the 5% figure, I'll believe it when I see it actually happening.
Right.
There's lots of promises, but lots of broken promises at the same time.
Right.
With all of these things. Also, Trump has told Congress, I guess, that you can't take your vacation. I guess your July. I guess we're supposed to go home for July 4th holiday, or what's the schedule? Do they go for a couple of weeks or something?
Yeah, they go for about it's not a long break for the 4th of July, because then they come back and they go till they can leave in August. So
yeah, the August recess is the big one, right?
Yeah.
One of the so the deadline has been July 4th for the big beautiful bill, and they're slogging along here. But I mean, today's what, the 25th, so that's not a whole lot. That's not a whole lot of days here to go for doing that. Can Trump actually tell them that? I mean, does he have any influence in terms of like, you can't go home until you pass this bill? I mean, can't they just go ahead and say, we're going for a week and we'll come back and we'll take it back up, right? I mean,
just bully pulpit.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all he has. That's all he usually has. He's pretty good with it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying. I mean, I think they're trying to please him and trying to get there. but they still have some differences that they haven't worked out, and that clock is ticking.
Yeah.
So,
but in
yeah,
terms of the time it takes to do those things, there's still time.
right. All right. Now to the roundup. We'll spend a few more minutes before we wrap up the show, and that's all we've got is a few more minutes. So I saw a news report that Bernie Sanders in the Fighting the Oligarchy Tour is going it alone. That he's not. That he's the only person on the agenda on the program for future tours. There's AOC is not on the agenda. So where is AOC? Nope. Does anybody know?
Well, I mean, I think she's, I think that they realize that she can't raise enough money to be president, and that Bernie probably can't either, but Bernie's willing to keep doing it. So that's what I think is going on. He was in Shreveport the other day. He sold out municipal auditorium where Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, all those guys used to play. And he is admitting that they have some problems on his side, on the left side, right? He's not a Democrat, but he is acknowledging that some of their stuff does not add up, right? And I don't think that you can defund the police. I don't think that they're starting to realize like we're running up against some walls here, and we got to fix it, right? So I don't know that he's the guy. Yeah,
that's true.
That's right.
That is true. Yeah. All right. So my general thing about this tour is just that people don't even know what he's talking about. I mean, I don't even know what an oligarchy is, but it sounds like it sounds good, and you can label Trump a king, an oligarch, or whatever, and people are like, okay, yeah, we can't have that, and so they just flock, right? I mean, liberal leftists that have no brains, they flock, and they're like, okay, that's fine. But I would love to have people ask these questions. Is like, so exactly, who's the oligarchy? What are they talking about? What do you why are you here?
Yeah, who's the oligarch? That's right.
Right.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
Okay, fair enough.
Is that boots on the ground?
That's boots on the
ground. Our intrepid eye down there, Charlton.
Yeah.
Thank you for that update. That's good. But does that surprise us that we're getting one?
That they would, because like he's right. I was fooled by the pictures.
Right.
I saw these pictures. It didn't look like there was an empty seat in the place. So, it's the way they shoot it. That's an very old hall. It's really historic, beautiful place. So, I mean, it's possible to get the right angle and make things look substantially different than they really were.
And just as the way they play things for the conservatives, right? They do what they can to make things look emptier than they are, right?
Yeah.
So they always argue about those kinds of things. So yeah, it's definitely kind of a setup. The media knows what they want. What's the message they want to send? All right, Mayor Bass. I saw this little clip and I died, and she's talking about the riots in LA, and she's like, it was only 1 square mile, and it was only for a couple of days, and it's peaceful now because of me, right? But there was a tweet by the comptroller, I guess, in LA, and he's talking about the costs are like $29.5 million for this for cleanup or something. I don't know. I mean, there's several different figures he quoted, for cleanup and for security and all these kinds of things, and it was well over 30 million, maybe 35 or 40 million dollars. It's like, and there was a report from some local like independent California thing, and and they, I tend to think that those kind of guys tend to be leaning left, but there were people there that were like, they interviewed and said, we haven't seen this before. This wasn't even this bad, during Black Lives Matter, going on for several days. So Karen Bass is just lying out of her mouth. I mean,
yeah. Just to really weak. It reminded me of J.D. Vance going on with Martha Raddatz, and Martha Raddatz saying, they're talking about the Tren de Agua taking over the apartment buildings in Colorado. She goes, well, we talked to city officials there, and it's only a few apartment buildings. It's only a few blocks. It's like, and his thing was, listen to yourself, Martha. You're saying it's okay that a foreign gang, right, a violent foreign gang, controls a few apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. That's okay. We're just going to step back and we're going to say, okay, you guys got these few apartment buildings. We'll just go elsewhere in the heart of our country, right? That's like you're missing the point.
But, yeah. All right. Also, reports still say that Kamala Harris is mulling the bid for governor of California. Will announce a decision in July. I mean, do you really think that's a possibility?
I cannot imagine anyone wanting to give her money. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't work, right? You gave $3 million to Beyonce to come and give a 1-minute speech, not even sing. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. And I think that I don't think the Democrats can unsee that at this point.
All right. And then we'll
also, I'm going to say this about that. So the federal government has forced California to clean its voting rolls. And the Los Angeles is dragging its feet because they don't want to do it because it's a huge difference there. But they think that by the time this is done, by all the voting rolls, it's going to be a 2 million voter advantage for Republicans. So California may not be as out of play as you think.
No, that would be interesting.
They may have to take care to provide, to put up a competent candidate this time, or they may not win.
That'd be interesting. All right.
And certainly can't help them there.
All right. And then we'll just finish with your thoughts of on the sports beat here.
Sports beat. Yay, LSU winning the College World Series. So, LSU, as we talked about, went 59-0 and won the NAIA. LSU won the College World Series, beat Coastal Carolina. The final game, the Coastal Carolina manager and first base coach got kicked out in the first inning for arguing balls and strikes. Well, the rules, in majors, they have some discretion over who and when they throw people out. But in college, the rules pretty prescriptive, and these guys clearly broke it. Oklahoma City wins the NBA title, mainly because the best player on the other team got hurt. And so it was a bad deal for that. I think it's kind of a low point for the NBA. They got some thinking to do about, that series was basically unwatched and unnoticed. Their draft now is basically unwatched and unnoticed once Cooper Flag is taken. So, I mean, they have some thinking to do. They're at a crossroads.
Yeah. I mean, they still have a terrible all-star game set up and everything.
Yeah. They got to do something about that too.
Yeah. I'm still all in for baseball all-star game, saying that I love that.
Well, here's the thing about that. Baseball is the only sport where the all-star game is an actual game. Like the pitchers, they still throw 95, and then you got to hit at 95, and then you get the unpredictability of where a ball goes after it's been hit in that situation. I mean, you got to play normal baseball. Basketball, you just don't guard anybody. Football, you just don't, you don't want to tackle anybody and get hurt. So it's like a touch game, So, I mean, baseball is the only sport you can really play it meaningfully in an all-star format.
Right. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you stay safe and stay well. Remember that we live in the greatest country in the world. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And so we'll see you again next week. And God bless America. And a final shout out to my daughter, which I keep forgetting during the show that today is her birthday. So
hey, happy birthday!
Yeah, I've got a 39-year-old daughter.
Holy cow.
With 7 children.
With 7 children. But at least she's doing it upright.
Yeah, that's right. Well, somebody's got to pick up the slack for the people who won't have any children at all. For heaven's sakes, right. Future of America is bleak if people don't have more babies.
Right. I hear you.
Right. All righty. Future Grandpa Brian, we'll see you around, and that's it, folks.